Good morning, everybody. I think I'll try to stand up if you don't mind. I have made perhaps a mistake. I did not prepare a PowerPoint presentation, so I think I'd better stand up and having a better chance of being, if not heard, at least seen. Good morning. I'd like to thank very much the Croatian government and presidency of the decade for inviting me here. I'm very pleased and honored to take part in this meeting. I am sorry that I missed yesterday's program, which visibly was very interesting and also very, I think, exciting, at least from what I've heard. I work in the Council of Europe's Youth Department, and I work with youth issues since several years, with youth policies. But I've also been involved in working with the participation of Roma young people in Europe since some years as well. So in a way, I kind of connect with what the previous speaker was referring to regarding the importance of associating Roma young people to national action plans, but generally to any work addressed at Roma communities. I think that this should be in a way unquestionable. We used to say in the youth policy sector that society that does not have a vision for its youth does not have a vision for its future. And in a way, if we don't have a vision for the Roma youth, our vision for the future of Roma communities in Europe is also limited. So I think it is extremely important. I'd like to congratulate the organizers for having placed youth in this program. I think it's a very important point. It's a very important step, and I hope it will have also practical consequences in the future. The Council of Europe, as you certainly know, is this organization of 47 member states working for human rights, democracy, and rule of law, and working also naturally, therefore, on several issues that concern the inclusion and the promotion of the human rights of Roma communities across Europe. Most of our work at present is focused on the pursuance of the Strasbourg Action Plan, following the high-level conference held in 2010, and also on pursuing the summit of mayors on Roma, which took place last year in Strasbourg. But in the youth sector, we felt that Roma youth, or young people, were missing in the Strasbourg Action Plan. There was nothing foreseen for young people and with young people. So we have initiated last year a process of consultation with Roma youth organizations and generally stakeholders in Roma youth affairs to see where we could be most effective and relevant as a European organization to support the development and of participation and inclusion of Roma youth. And I stress here the European side of things, because we cannot, even though we do actually have actions in several countries specifically, but generally we do not work with one country only. We have to work with a variety of countries. So how can the European level support what necessarily shall happen or should happen at national level? And the result of that conference, which was the Roma Youth Action Plan. The Roma Youth Action Plan is a collection of, I would say, wheels of commitments from the Council of Europe, but also from Roma youth organizations and from other stakeholders, including, for example, the Open Society Foundations, including the OSCE, etc. It's still an attempt. I would not say it's done, but it's a commitment to work together to improve the situation of Roma youth in Europe regarding their participation in youth policies, regarding their participation in programs addressed to Roma, and regarding their involvement in overcoming discrimination of Roma communities across Europe. That is the essence of this Roma Youth Action Plan. And this is what I would like to present here, because I'm sure that the Roma Youth Action Plan is not so well known across Europe as it probably should be. One of the reasons being, of course, that, as I said, it is still a process in construction. And like many other processes of this kind, the process itself is sometimes as important as the result. And the process for us consists in first place of associating Roma young people to the plan, to its elaboration, to its development, and to its implementation. But it is also working across sectors, like the speaker from Ferry mentioned, to make sure that other policy areas take into account the specific needs and situations of Roma young people. We have set up, therefore, an informal contact group for this Roma Youth Action Plan. This informal contact group, as the name suggests, is not a formal structure, but it's an open group to which we invite international organizations as much governmental, intergovernmental as non-governmental. I'll be very pleased to tell you more about the informal contact group, but the point is not so much the structure, because it's not a structure. The point is the approach. As I said, the process, that we try to address this together to see how we can complement each other. So that we don't repeat the same activities, but instead we actually increase the impact of each of our actions. In that conference that we organized last year, the motto, in a way, has been a bit a sad realization, a sad reality. The question that was addressed by one of the speakers was, is there Roma youth? Does Roma youth exist as such? If we take youth as a transition from childhood to adulthood, how many Roma young people actually have the possibility to experience this transition? One of the concerns of the conference was that many Roma young people actually do not have this possibility. They often jump almost from childhood to adulthood in terms of responsibilities, in terms of challenges that they face, in terms of roles that they have to take in a family or in the community. And of course, being young is not a right. Being young is a situation in life. But being young is also the time when you can prepare your future, when you can experience citizenship, when you can try it, and when you can also make mistakes. And obviously in this context, being young is a right that Roma youth is entitled to have. And the situations that the Roma Youth Action Plan addresses are very much based on this. Because the challenges, I think you know them certainly better than me, whether it is discrimination, multiple discriminations, as we have seen, whether it is denial of access to rights. When the rights exist, it's difficult to access them. Whether it is difficulties in education, training, employment, etc., etc. Altogether, I would not like to paint a very bleak picture, but altogether, for many young people, it results in a conflict of belonging and sometimes identities, which is not good for them, of course, as persons, but it's also not good for the whole of our societies. And I think that's where the point is. We do not do this. We do not do the Roma Youth Action Plan just because we love Roma youth, which of course we do, but because it's the future of our societies that is at stake. And if we do not involve Roma youth, we are making ourselves a very bad service. So the action plan in this respect works along 6 principles. Is the creation of supporting the creation of an environment where Roma youth can grow free from discrimination. The discrimination issue is essential because it's where it connects closest to human rights and the enjoyment of human rights. And by the way, of course, when we speak about human rights, we also speak about human duties. Human rights is citizenship. And citizenship is belonging, is taking part, is giving and taking. I think this is very clear. Young people do not just want to take things. Young people are, of course, active citizens. We're not looking only at the future, we're also looking at the very present. This involves also, second point, challenging stereotypical and prejudicial views on Roma, supporting the participation and autonomy of Roma young people at European level, hoping that this will also have a trickle-down effect on the national level, involving young Romans in being promoters of human rights and human rights education, a little bit being the change that you want to see, in a way. So it's not just not as fighting for the human rights of Roma, but it's also young Roma generally fighting for the human rights of everyone. We're speaking about promoting real equal opportunities for young Roma. And I think the real, it's difficult to define, but I think it's easy to understand. That the equality of opportunities on which youth policies in the Council of Europe are based are, for many people, a mirage. And we need to make them more real. We will work also on the promotion of desegregation of Roma environments and settlements, especially in relation to schools, and the promotion and respect of Roma identity, culture and language. These are the points on which the Roma Youth Action Plan is based. I will highlight some of the activities that we have in mind in these 2 years, because since we work with 2 years periods in the Council of Europe program, we made a program or a plan for 2012 and 2013. But obviously, I think no one expects that we will stop this in 2013, because this will not be accomplished in 2013. We'll, of course, continue with it in some other form. So, for example, in terms of strengthening Roma youth identity and awareness of cultural heritage, we include activities such as the celebrations of the 8th of April or the commemorations of 8th of April and of the 2nd of August. We will initiate, in relation to diversity and multiple discrimination, we'll initiate a research on the situation of young LGBT people, Roma, so Roma with also lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender identity, and how they experience multiple discrimination. We will host at the European Youth Centers in Strasbourg and Budapest study sessions on empowerment of Roma young women, and we'll be carrying out a study on life stories of young Roma facing multiple discrimination. Finally, in this area, I should also stress that the European Youth Foundation of the Council of Europe provides financial support for local projects addressing these situations of discrimination or multiple discrimination. So we do indeed also provide occasional financial support for local projects which are, correspond to these criteria. The third dimension of our work, building a strong Roma youth movement. So providing conditions for sustainable participation of young Roma in European activities. Here we will organize training courses on organizational management for Roma youth leaders. We will have other study sessions at European Youth Centers. We are preparing, together with the Congress, or under the initiative of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of the Council of Europe, a report on Roma youth, which will be presented, I think, to the October session of the Congress, if I'm not mistaken, and which will complement the Congress action regarding that resulted from the summit of mayors last year, so as to have a strong local dimension also of this project. We would like to work towards the establishment, or at least the the holding of a Roma Youth Congress. This is something that has been very dear to some Roma youth organizations, and we don't want to create new structures, but we would like certainly to enlarge the scope of youth organizations we work with, and to allow them also to work together, because it will be a mistake to think that the Roma youth organizations all know each other. The barriers that young Roma face across Europe, also in many cases, despite the progress in telecommunications, are also a barrier to cooperation. We will, in the area of human rights education, we are initiating next month a long-term project on training young Roma multipliers and trainers for human rights education, so that they can develop their projects within their own communities. We are producing, together with our colleagues in education, and as part of a project in Bulgaria, the Romani version of a very popular manual for human rights education called Compasito, so to be used in schools, but also in informal groups and so on. And it's a very popular manual, I can assure you. So its existence in Romani will support also the development of Roma language and culture. Finally, we are on the level of anti-discrimination. We're also realizing in November a seminar on segregation of schools in Strasbourg. Not segregation in Strasbourg, the seminar will be in Strasbourg about segregation of schools, or in schools, or in a school environment. And we are preparing for a large, we hope large, media campaign against hate speech next year. This is something totally new for the Council of Europe. I invite you to think about it, because we hope it will be visible next year. Because hate speech online particularly targets, in many of our countries, Roma, and this is something that we feel has not been tackled seriously enough. So, particularly in this area, I will be very interested to listen to your proposals. Finally, we'll also be holding a training course for Roma youth mediators, and I hope that we will organize a regional conference for Southeast Europe on the role of youth policies in supporting Roma youth participation. Because sometimes youth policies themselves discriminate Roma or Roma youth in the approach that we cover everybody, sometimes we forget somebody. Friends, I think that I will stop here. I think my 2 minutes are over. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me. I hope that I've managed to interest you in the sense of keeping youth as an important issue. As Council of Europe, we're ready to support and to work together with any of you at national level, at a more coordinated level. This Roma Youth Action Plan is, by the way, only possible due to voluntary contributions, mostly, of the member states. Of course, we are still open for more voluntary contributions, but also especially for cooperations with one or the other initiative. So do not hesitate to approach me on this. And finally, I think that I'd like to thank very much for Ferip and other colleagues that are here and work with Roma youth, because their projects are indeed, I think, the most relevant and the most important, because at the end of the day, it is Roma youth who should carry the Roma Youth Action Plan. Thank you very much.